This is Democracy Now! I'm Amy Goodman. As the U.S. death toll from COVID-19 nears 120,000, President Trump's facing condemnation for remarks made during his poorly attended campaign rally in Tulsa, Oklahoma. He again referred to COVID-19 with the racist terms Chinese virus, Kung flu. This is Trump speaking about the issue of testing.
They call me, they say the job you're doing. Here's the bad part. When you do testing to that extent, you're going to find more people, you're going to find more cases. So I said to more people, slow the testing down, please.
Slow the testing down, please. Prior to the rally, 6 Trump campaign staff was working on the Tulsa event tested positive for coronavirus. Trump also used his speech to attack nationwide protests against police abuse and racism, where demonstrators toppled statues and other symbols of the Confederacy.
The unhinged left-wing mob is trying to vandalize our history, desecrate our monuments, our beautiful monuments. Tear down our statues and punish, cancel, and persecute anyone who does not conform to their demands for absolute and total control. We're not conforming. That's why we're here, actually.
Trump also tried to dismiss calls to defund police departments by making up a story about a, quote, tough hombre, he said, breaking into the home of a woman who was home alone.
It's 1 o'clock in the morning, and a very tough, you know, I've used the word on occasion, hombre. A very tough hombre is breaking into the window of a young woman whose husband is away as a traveling salesman or whatever he may do. And you call 911 and they say, I'm sorry, this number is no longer working.
Trump is in Arizona now, where tomorrow he will hold a rally at a megachurch in Phoenix, Arizona. That was just a few of the things he said, Emily Bazelon. I wanted to get your comments, staff writer at the New York Times Magazine. Your new book, Charge, the new movement to transform American prosecution and end mass incarceration. He went back to his old tropes, talking about coronavirus as Kung flu and the Chinese virus. He was there in Tulsa. It's 99th anniversary of the Tulsa race massacre. He didn't make mention of it or Juneteenth. Talk about what he did and didn't talk about, and the significance of the racism that just infused this speech, where he said he would be speaking twice outside to an overflow capacity of something like 40,000 people. Virtually no one was outside, and inside about a third of the arena, according to the fire chief in Tulsa, was 6,200 people. It held 19,000.
I mean, you see President Trump going back to his characteristic script, and it's a divisive script in which the people who he is caricaturing are people of color, and in which coronavirus is kind of dismissed or mocked. Trump said after the speech, or the White House did, that he was just joking when he talked about slowing down the number of tests. But that allows him to have it both ways. He both gets to stir up his base with this idea that coronavirus is fake or not worth taking seriously, and then back away from that statement. And you see when he is using these racist terms, this attempt always to blame foreign adversaries, to turn coronavirus into the kind of enemy that he can recognize associated with China, as opposed opposed to just an illness that the country needs to contend with on its own terms. So I think you just see this tremendous impulse to divide. This is what has worked for Trump in the past. He is not going to change now.
And of course, the racist allusion he made, not talking about any story in particular, but talking about an hombre, which goes back to when he first announced for president, talking about Mexicans as rapists. And he says this hombre goes to a house where a woman is alone and breaks into her house. The ongoing litany of racism. And then this all happened in the context of the protests. And this is an issue that you have dealt with extensively, actually, in your book has now just come out in paperback, Charge, the New Movement to Transform American Prosecution and End Mass Incarceration. If you can talk about the significance of these protests when it comes to issues like mass incarceration.
So I think there are two things happening here. One is that Trump is tapping into these law and order themes that Republican candidates in particular have been sounding since the 1960s. You talk about kind of out-of-control protesters, cities that sound like they're in trouble, and you paint a picture of crime going unaddressed, the idea that you call 911 and no one's there. These aren't real images, but they conjure up this notion that the country is in danger and that people's security are being threatened. And that has typically helped Republicans in the past and helped President Trump. So it doesn't matter that crime is way down and that actually the country is very concerned right now with racial justice in the criminal justice system. President Trump is sort of harking back to this old era in which people, especially white people, were afraid. And in terms of the connection to the protests, what we're seeing is this just outpouring of concern about the way Black people and Latino people are treated by the police. The criminal justice system is just riddled with racial disparity. When I was reporting my book, I was really struck by how much research there is at every phase of the development of a case, from a stop on the street to an arrest to a prosecution and a plea bargain. You see racial disparity. It is not explained by the kinds of charges, by the conduct of people involved. It is an extra penalty that Black people and Latino people bear. And I think we're seeing this real dawning of awareness about that and interest in doing something about it. And the president is just not a match for this moment.
Well, Emily Bazelon, I want to thank you for being with us. Staff writer at the New York Times Magazine, where she's profiled Attorney General William Barr, also teaches at Yale Law School, and is author of the book Charge, the New Movement to Transform American Prosecution and End Mass Incarceration. She's also co-host of the Slate podcast, Political Gabfest.
Ted Cruz got into it with actor Ron Perlman on Twitter. This all started when Ron Perlman wanted to make a point about how ugly Matt Gaetz is, and he included Jim Jordan in the conversation. Let me just note that Jim Jordan still hasn't commented on any of this, but here's what Ron Perlman put out there. He said, P.S. to Matt Gaetz, you're lucky for this guy, Matt. If it weren't for him, you'd be the ugliest politician walking. Look, I don't know what spurred that tweet. It's just kind of out of left field. It wasn't part of the thread. It seems unprovoked, but I'm confused by it. And at that point, Ted Cruz is like, no, I will protect Jim Jordan and his, I guess in his mind, good looks. And so he responds and says, listen, Hellboy, you talk a good game when you've got Hollywood makeup and stuntmen. But I bet $10,000 to the non-political charity of your choice that you couldn't last 5 minutes in the wrestling ring with Jim Jordan without getting pinned. You up for it? Or does your publicist say too risky? So Jay, Perlman did respond to that, but I wanted to get your thoughts so far before we move on.
So I'll tell you why this happened. First of all, Ron Perlman, friend of the show. He's been on a couple different shows of ours, including Old School. You should check that out. And the reason we like him is because he likes to fight. And so there are a lot of Democrats who are going to punch people in the face, proverbially. And he does on Twitter all day long. He is, after all, Sons of Anarchy and Hellboy. I know those are shows. But Ron does have that fighting spirit. So he doesn't mind calling people ugly, and he doesn't care what anybody says. Now, why is Ted Cruz doing it? He's senator from Texas. And here's the fun part that no one else is talking about. It's because Ted Cruz is trying to copy Trump. Trump picks Twitter fights with celebrities and has gotten more and more famous. Remember the fights with Rosie O'Donnell and all the others? And so Ted Cruz has decided that this is going to be his political strategy. When you see a progressive or a Democrat on Twitter that says something about a Republican, jump into the fray, okay, and get media attention. But he doesn't have it in him. So the minute that Ron Perlman comes back at him, he's got to run for the hills. Because Perlman's going to bring up Jim Jordan's scandal about wrestling and how he did not report apparent child molestation. Oops. Okay, Trump would have gone over the top. Trump would have been like, oh yeah, you and Tom Hanks are molest children. Trump doesn't care. He has no bounds, right? He's like, oh, mud. I love mud, right? Ted Cruz is like, am I doing this right? Oh, you hell boy. I bet you couldn't wrestle Jim Jordan to the ground or find that enjoyable like I would. Did I do it right? Did I do it right?
It's so embarrassing. So Perlman then shoots back with the best tweet, because he calls out Ted Cruz for probably the most embarrassing thing that happened to Ted Cruz in his political career, and that's a pretty high bar, because Ted Cruz, like, by himself as a person is embarrassing. So here's what Perlman said. Wait, is this the Ted Cruz? Holy crap, is this the same guy who let little Donnie call his wife a dog and his father an assassin and now kisses his ass? Yo, can I get your autograph, man?
Damn! Good night, Irene. You want to talk about wrestling? He just hit you in the head with a chair, dude, and then dropped an elbow from the sky. So what are you going to do now, Teddy? Okay, you're going to go crying back home to mommy. Don't get into stuff. Don't start stuff you can't finish, okay? Don't start, none won't be none. But you just got your ass handed.
You're such a dork. Okay, one more tweet from Ron Perlman. He says, I'll tell you what, Teddy boy, since mentioning Jim Jordan and wrestling is problematic, why don't we say F him and just make it you and me? I'll give $50,000 to Black Lives Matter and you can keep all the taxpayer money you were thinking about spending. It's amazing.
Okay, look, man, if we're having fun, I'll get into the ring. Okay, me and Ron versus Jordan and Ted Cruz. I mean, Ron's got more money than I have, so the $50,000 from him is good enough. I got no problems. Let's do it, brothers. Okay, they're not gonna do it. Look, Jimmy Kimmel meant well, but when Ted Cruz challenged him and then they played basketball, that's exactly the kind of stuff that Ted Cruz is looking for.
Totally.
So I think Ron Perlman handled it great. Just humiliate them and move on.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks. Really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all you got to do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.
Okay, so you are now on a very short list for vice president, should Joe Biden choose you. And I love your answer, because usually people play games with this, and your answer is, yeah. if asked, I'll take it. So let me ask you this about Joe Biden. What would be your advice to Black Lives Matter about what they go after him for? Because they were pretty tough on Hillary last time, when she surely would have been the better candidate on issues that are important to them. And Joe's, a lot of people talking about busting in the 70s and the 94 Crime Bill, which he supported. What would be your advice?
Well, first of all, my advice is to understand that this is 2020. And we have an enormous range of challenges on our plate that deeply affect the lives and the well-being of African Americans in this country. Whether it's the COVID-19 pandemic, the economic recession, almost depression, and now what we are seeing with respect to perpetual police violence, and many of the underlying manifestations of what remains systemic racism. And we have a choice. Either Donald Trump remains in office, who has governed in a blatantly racist and divisive way, with utter disregard for the concerns of many Americans, including African Americans, or we elect Joe Biden, somebody whose heart and soul understand that our country is stronger when we're united, who understands that the African American population is an integral and equal part of this country, and that they have suffered enormously over generations, and that it's time to invest in health, in education, in housing, and in the environment, and so many of the underlying conditions which have exacerbated the systemic racism in this country, and also obviously to deal squarely with the challenges that we've seen on our streets with respect to the police and criminal justice system. And so, I understand that there are those protesting who may wish for a more radical agenda, but I think in Joe Biden what we stand to get is somebody who understands and appreciates the challenges, is willing to invest real resources and real energy in them, and it comes from a position of true passion. I worked with Joe Biden very closely for 8 years. I know him. In fact, I worked with him before the Obama administration when he was in the Senate and I was at the State Department. There's nobody that brings to this challenge a greater sense of the humanity that we all share, and a commitment to make that manifest in reality and in policy, not just in rhetoric. So I would urge those that are questioning how they might vote in this context to be very mindful of what the choice is. It couldn't be more stark.
Okay, now where you're sitting right now is a place where there is taxation but not representation. And I learned a lot about D.C. recently when President Trump pulled out the troops there. Because they don't have representation, so whereas other states have governors who make certain decisions, I guess in that district, it's up to the president. Statehood, I know, for D.C. is something very important to you, is it not?
It is. I'm a born and raised Washingtonian, and I've lived all my life, or most of my life, in a place where, like every other one of the more than 700,000 citizens of the District of Columbia, we are, by the way, a population larger than two other states, Wyoming and Vermont, and comparable to Alaska and Delaware. We pay more per capita in taxes than any state in the union, and more in federal taxes in the aggregate than 22 other states. And yet we have no voting representation in either the House or the Senate. And that is taxation without representation. But it's worse than that, because we don't have any measure of sovereignty equivalent to a state. Donald Trump can treat us as a playground, as he did when he called out federalized military forces to employ violence against largely peaceful protesters. This has got to change. It's long overdue. It's a remnant of racism and political expedience, because Republicans understand that by virtue of the fact that the District of Columbia is almost now still majority black and very democratic, they don't want any additional voting representation out of us. But that's completely undemocratic. And it's one more reason why we need a Democratic House, a Democratic Senate, and a Democratic President in the White House, because that is what it will take to change. We can fix this great iniquity through legislation that's signed into law by the President.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the show. Before we go just 1 minute further, let's step in and say hello to our friend John Baptiste. Hello, John.
Hello. Yes, indeed.
I was going to ask how you are, but I know how you are, which is the busiest man in lockdown, because you're always doing something. You've got, this Sunday, you're going to be on CBS, right?
Yes, that's right, with my good friend Harry Connick Jr. and many others.
It's a United We Sing, a Grammy tribute to the unsung heroes. What can we expect?
Oh my goodness, there's a lot of good music, and also people in the community are going to meet other celebrities and performers and tell them about their experience during COVID-19. So it's going to be an incredible thing to see the real story from the people on the front lines.
Celebrating the essential workers right now.
That's right.
And we got Oprah, Brad Pitt, Sandra Bullock, Dave Matthews. And now, I know you contributed a special performance, Jim. I think we have some tape of this. You can roll this while I'm talking to John. What are you performing here, and who is this singing with?
It's the Gospel Soul Children. This choir is an institution in New Orleans. It goes way back to Mahalia Jackson, and they have been, every generation, keeping the standard just as high. So I was playing Amazing Grace with them on that clip.
I've heard it. It's extraordinary. Y'all got to watch on Sunday night. You got to check out the whole thing. Definitely check out John and the choir. It's incredibly moving, incredibly beautiful, and I can't wait to see it. John Baptiste, everybody. This Sunday is Father's Day, and it's always nice to send the dad in your life a card. Since it's harder to gather in person right now, those cards will matter more than ever this year. The thing is, the people who write greeting cards don't always get it right on the first try. So we're taking a look at some of their early attempts in our holiday segment, First Drafts.
No, stupid!
As always with First Drafts, I need someone from the audience to come up and help me out. Is there anyone else?
Here.
You, young lady.
Yeah, I'm the only one here.
Why don't you come up? Just don't tell him you're the only one here. Come on. Here. You sit here. You sit here. I'll sit here.
All right.
Okay, I'll submit a card. Okay.
Hello.
Hello. And what is your name?
My name is Evelyn Colbert.
Evelyn Colbert. Okay, what a coincidence. Okay. So here's how it works. Evie is going to show me a great Father's Day card, and then the not so great first draft of that card. Right? This is your Father's Day present. Okay. Though I would also like a present.
Could I have the first?
This is actually the first draft.
Oh, this is the final draft. So here's a lovely one. Happy Father's Day to the man who taught me everything. Open it. I love you, Dad.
That's really sweet.
That's really sweet.
Yeah.
But the first draft said, Happy Father's Day to the man who taught me everything I know. Would you pass this along to Mr. Cunningham if you have his address? He was an awesome teacher. Thanks, Dad. Thanks.
What do you...
You're maybe going to have dinner? Why don't we have a...
can't have dinner.
Why don't we have a plank off?
Her father, 5-minute planking. Feeling of inadequacy. I want your father and Tom Brady to have a plank.
Happy Father's Day. Dad, who taught me to never stop being curious. Thank you for making me a lifelong learner. That's very
That is
sweet.
really sweet.
It's a good one. But the first draft said, Happy Father's Day. So finally, I got that DNA test, and it confirmed the bass player from Leonard Skinner is my real father. Okay, you've got another one?
Sure. Oh, I don't know. Do I?
Can I have the next card? Am I supposed to keep talking to you?
Well, it's polite. You are hosting right now.
You never even got on fun.
Yes. So,
Are you from out of town?
well, kind of. I grew up here. Yeah. Yes, I'm from out of town. Yes, I'm from out of town.
Okay, good. Happy Father's Day.
Because you wouldn't want to think that I live here all the time.
Well, I mean, I'm not going to play a game that I don't know you and that you're someone I don't know. That's not fair to your viewers. It's not honest. Here's one. Happy Father's Day. You're the real MVP. Very special. Can I have the first draft? But the first draft said, Happy Father's Day, Dad. Sorry, Mom. Benched you for Craig. Or
See
Greg,
that?
actually.
It doesn't matter. Sad story either way. Really quite sad.
It's pretty sad.
It is.
Okay, I'm sensing you want me to ask you another question.
I could if you wanted to.
What would you like for Father's Day?
What would I like Father's Day? Ooh, I would like to fish, if possible. That's in the cards, the weather. And then I would like to start drinking at any hour I want with no judgment.
Does that include breakfast?
Yeah. If I want an espresso martini to start off, you go like, hey, it's your breakfast.
Okay. Done.
I'm not going to do it. I just don't want any
Done.
judgment if it happens.
Done. Promise.
Great. What did you do? What was that?
I promise. Girl Scouts honor?
Sure. We should move on.
Yeah, okay, can I have the next card, please?
Sure.
Okay. Grandpa, you like a vintage car. Reliable, hardworking, and a classic.
Oh, that's so nice.
I'll give that to Dad.
Sure.
Okay. But the first draft said, Gramps, you drove your 57 Chevy through a Jamba Juice. We're going to need you to hand over the keys. Okay, how is that?
That was sad. It's good. That was fun. I
It was
loved
fun.
that.
That
Thank
was
you. That was a wonderful gift to me.
Well,
I'm afraid there's no more time for anything else in the show.
I have a gift for you. I have one more gift for you.
Oh, you do? What is it?
Well, I'm going to tell you. So,
I'm waiting.
okay. I hit it very subtly and you saw me.
I didn't know.
Okay, so here's the thing.
Yeah?
Do you remember when Madeline, our first child, was born and we took her to the pediatrician for the very first time?
Are you going to make me cry?
I'm not going to make you cry. Just
Don't
wanna know
make me
if you
cry on
remember.
national
No,
television.
just listen. And
Is
he
this
said,
when we gave her a shot and she turned to me and said, oh,
no.
you betrayed me?
No. The doctor turns to me, and remember, I just had a baby a couple of days before, I haven't slept, and he says, how did you know your husband would be a good father? And the first thing I said, because it was true, was because he makes me laugh. Which is true, right? But I have thought about it over the past 25 years, and there are lots of other reasons that you're a great father. One of them is that you listen to our children. So I wanted to give you this photo of you talking to John, because I think it shows what a great dad you are.
Okay, there you go.
Happy Father's Day.
There you go. That's me listening to my youngest out on a hill. Oh, that's beautiful.
Isn't that sweet?
Thank you.
I love you.
I love you too. Happy Father's Day, Dads.
Oh.
We'll be right back with the president of the NAACP Legal Defense Fund, Cheryl and Eiffel.
I want to talk about American democracy. You know, Mark Zuckerberg's favorite book. Look, 2020 has been a mess. Horrific police brutality, coronavirus, impeachment, the economy tanking, and of course, this.
Mr. Peanut's untimely demise. Now he's being remembered this morning.
Planters confirmed the sad news in a tweet, writing, "It is with heavy hearts that we confirm Mr. Peanut has died at 104.
Not the first billionaire I thought we'd murder, but a win's a win. We are living through rough times right now, and it probably feels like we don't agree on anything. But actually, as a country, we agree on more than you think, and it's pretty surprising. Universal background checks, ending cash bail, legal status for dreamers. Republicans and Democrats intersect on a lot of things. It's a bizarre phenomenon known as Boston. But year after year, none of it happens. So it feels like we have a representative government that doesn't represent us. So it makes sense that every 4 years, about 100 million eligible voters don't vote. That's why I want to bring the focus back on November. And I know you're like, Hassan, November? Dude, I don't even believe in Thursday anymore. But whether we like it or not, we also have an election this year. And we are choosing between this. How is this the best we could do? I'll explain how. Now, I'm not going to tell you what to do. I'm going to tell you how we got here. As much as we like to say our politics are fucked up because of campaign finance, gerrymandering, voter suppression, the Electoral College, and the cast of The View, there's actually a much more fundamental problem. We are doing elections wrong. Now, I'm not talking about voting machines or polling places, not even this one in Bel Air.
Mouth-watering lamb chops, crispy Chinese chicken salad, and a major dessert bar. Did I mention there's a harpist?
The ambiance is delightful. The fact that I can spend less time worrying about the voting and more time enjoying being at the polling facility is probably the plus.
Yeah, Bel Air! Nothing like getting up early, voting for Bloomberg, and heading into work with a gut full of beef chow mein. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the way our elections are decided. Think about elections for the Senate, the House, and the presidency. Only one person can win, and it's winner take all. You win everything, or you lose everything. You're either Kevin Hart or Kevin Spacey. There is no in between. And you don't actually need a majority to win.
A majority is when a candidate has more than half the votes. A plurality is when one candidate receives more votes than any other candidate. So a candidate doesn't need a majority of the votes, they just need more votes than any other candidate. Or a plurality.
We misunderstand the most basic principle of our democracy. We think we have majority rules, but that's not true. It's actually plurality rules. Unless you're on a yacht in the English Channel, then it's Vanderpump rules. Winner-take-all voting is actually at the heart of so many of our political problems. It's a big reason why we have Trump to begin with. Let's go back to 2016, right? In the Republican primary, Trump never got a majority of voters. He just got a plurality. Less than 14 million Americans voted for him. That is only 5.5% of all eligible voters. Think about that for a second. Most Republicans voted for not Trump, but it didn't matter. The party had to bow down and kiss the ring. Just look at how they talked about Trump before the nomination and then after.
Donald Trump likes to sue people. He should sue whoever did that to his face. Thank you for being a champion for the cause of freedom and democracy in this hemisphere.
Donald Trump's candidacy is a cancer on conservatism.
The extraordinary vision that Donald Trump has.
I think he's a kook. I think he's crazy. You know what concerns me about the American press is this endless attempt to label the guy as some kind of kook.
Aw, thanks, Lindsay. It only took a couple months to go from, this is the dirtiest man in politics, to, the bath is ready for you, my liege. Mainstream Republicans didn't embrace Trump because they liked him. They hated him. But they hated Democrats more, so they fell in line. That fear and hatred of the other party is the most powerful force in politics today. It's called negative partisanship.
It's easier to rally people to come out against something than to stand for something, and that ends up degrading our democracy.
Dude, we all vote like 13-year-olds. Everything's about who we hate, not who we like. And that is a direct result of winner take all. Every election is all or nothing. So the two parties just attack each other nonstop, and it's driving them further and further apart. Look at how much polarization has increased in the House and the Senate. It looks like the stock market during the pandemic. We are more divided than ever. Almost ever.
This is probably the most divided we've been since the Civil War.
We've never been this divided since the Civil War, probably. At times it feels as if culturally we're in a cold civil war.
A third of Americans actually believe that a second Civil War will happen within the next 5 years. Now, wow. What does that actually mean?
It means Ken Burns is about to win another Emmy. Shout out to Kenny B, who cut his hair at home before it was cool. Dude, we can't even come together during a global pandemic. We've turned public health into a culture war.
It's my freedom to run around and catch a virus if I want to.
My body, my choice.
You can't close America.
We have to reopen our country.
America will reopen. America knows it was a Chinese communist.
They seem to be very responsible people to me.
Yeah! Nothing says responsible like driving a tank through the middle of the street. I'm sure he's on his way to invest in a mutual fund. Now, obviously, Trump only made this worse, and you can see how negative partisanship plays out in the way he treated armed protesters who agree with him versus peaceful protesters who disagree with him. Trump said the George Floyd protests were orchestrated by Antifa, then said he wanted to designate Antifa as a terrorist organization, even though that same day, the FBI said they had no evidence Antifa was involved in DC protests. Trump's basically calling anyone who disagrees with him a terrorist, which is upsetting. I say this as a Muslim. Donnie, I thought I was your only terrorist. Once you start calling people who disagree with you terrorists, you feel justified doing whatever it takes to beat them. You have every incentive to play as dirty as possible, because in politics, it pays off. If you win, you get a whole seat. That's why Republicans have been caught countless times using voter ID laws, purging voter rolls, closing polling locations, and gerrymandering.
This is Pennsylvania's 7th, which has been referred to, and I'm not making this up, Goofy kicking Donald Duck. See that?
Oh, okay. It's Goofy kicking Donald Duck. That's what we're calling it now. I'm not saying Democrats are perfect. They're fucking not, and I'll get to that later. But winner take all specifically pushes Republicans to far-right extremes, whether it's tactics, policy, or rhetoric. And if you're a Republican politician, you have to go along, or primary voters will get you.
Why aren't more Republicans speaking up? It's always for the same reason.
They're scared to death they may be primary.
Scared to death. They're scared to death.
And they're scared to death.
They're scared stiff.
Boy, the fear of a primary challenge is one hell of a drug.
Basically, Republicans are terrified of getting canceled for not being racist enough. They're like, no, I swear I did blackface in college. I lost the pictures, but you gotta believe me. Winner take all encourages Republican extremism, and then our electoral system rewards it. That system gives way more power to white Republicans in rural states and way less power to Democrats clustered in cities. More people voted for Democrats in 6 of the last 7 presidential elections, 2 of the last 3 Senate elections, and the last House election. But Republicans control the presidency, the Senate, the Supreme Court, most state legislatures, most governorships, and 100% of late-stage Kanye. We don't have majority rule in this country. We have extreme minority rule. That's why none of this feels normal. I know you guys are like, I'm fucking normal. Politics is not normal. And Trump is the epitome of what winner take all does to Republicans. He loves going on the attack. He's super far right and he never got a majority, but he still won. Winner take all affects Democrats the opposite way. They need way more votes to overcome those geographic disadvantages. Dems aren't playing to 12 straight up. They're playing to 12 and you gotta win by 10. So they picked a candidate who is undeniable.
We hold these truths to be self-evident. All men and women created by the goal. You know the thing.
You're a lying dog-faced pony soldier.
If you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, then you ain't black.
Wait, Dems can be racist? Let me check with the hot sauce in my bag about this. Dems are split. Lots of people are happy that Biden won. Lots of people are upset, especially Bernie supporters.
I feel that it's important to vote blue just because it's a step in the right direction, but I really, really don't want to vote for Biden. I really don't.
I get it. Bernie stands for big systemic reform. Medicare for all, Green New Deal, aggressive pointing. What is Joe Biden's signature policy? The closest thing that we could find was just his stance on Trump.
Every single poll is run. I beat him like a drum. I'm gonna beat this man like a drum. I will beat him like a drum. Like a drum. Like a drum. Like a drum.
How is he weirder when he finishes his sentences? Biden's signature policy was basically, I'm a moderate who can beat Trump. But that's actually way smarter than it seems because Democrats need broad appeal to win.
In a two-party system, you better believe Democrats need a really big tent.
We have to have a big tent.
We have a big tent.
We have a big tent.
Big tent. We are a big tent caucus.
You've got to have a big tent.
A big, big tent. That's the kind of big tent we need.
Bernie has a big, beautiful, broad tent.
Bernie's got a big, thick, throbbing tent with prominent veins. Miranda, you went full Samantha on that one. But the thing is, Bernie didn't have a big, broad, beautiful tent. Biden did. On Super Tuesday, Biden won almost everywhere. But Virginia shows you how much he dominated. The state had record turnout and Biden won 98% of counties. Exit polls showed that Biden beat Bernie by double digits among men, women, whites, blacks, college and non-college grads, or as Biden would call them, fellas, broads, regulars, you people, Poindexters, and tough customers. And I know, a lot of Bernie bros are like, Hassan, it's the system, man. The DNC backed Biden. This two-party system made it impossible for Bernie. All right, relax, Chapo Trap House. It's true. The establishment did back Biden. But if you're mad at the DNC and the two-party system, you should really be mad at winner-take-all elections.
Why do we only have two parties in this country? We have single-member districts, winner-take-alls, plurality election rules where the most votes wins. For these reasons, we have a two-party system.
It's not unlike sports, where if you have a sports league like the NFL with one trophy at the end and only one team can win, you typically divide up that professional sports league into two different conferences.
Let's be real. Politics is more like the MLB. Constant cheating, mostly white, and nobody's in shade. Winner take all creates two-party systems. You can't afford to waste your vote, so you stop voting for candidates who reflect your values, and you start voting for ones you think can win. But when everybody does that, we end up with just two huge mega parties, even though 57% of Americans want a third party. Think about the way we treat people who vote third party. You'd be like, Dennis, who'd you vote for? And he's like, Gary Johnson. And we're like, Dennis! What the fuck are you doing, man? We treat them like they just left a baby in a hot car. We're like, what were you thinking? So, what happens to the people who don't fit in? Well, I decided to talk to one of them.
Representative AOC, thank you so much for sitting down with me.
Of course, thank you.
So we are here in the Watergate Hotel. Just as kind of like a throwback to when presidents were held accountable.
Yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
for sure. When impeachment was a thing that was effective.
Yes.
Remember when we were rooting for impeachment? Now we're rooting for hydroxychloroquine. Don't worry, this interview was pre-corona. I did not put the Queen of Clapback in danger. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez has been one of the loudest voices challenging the Democratic establishment. And I wanted to talk to her about that.
So, do you think the Democratic Party is legit split?
I think there's a strong ideological split in the Democratic Party, yes.
Like, how big of a split are we talking about?
I mean-
a fracture, a hairline fracture, out 2 to 3 weeks, but it'll make the playoffs?
I think it's less a fracture and more like two different limbs.
She's absolutely right. You've got the moderate arm of the party led by Nancy Pelosi and the progressive arm with AOC. And the problem is, one arm is doing fucking kettlebell swings to Rage Against the Machine, and the other arm is doing bicep curls to the Hamilton soundtrack.
She likes to minimize the conflicts within her caucus between the moderates and the progressives.
You have these wings, AOC and her group on one side.
It's like 5 people.
No, it's the progressive group. It's more than 5.
Progressive. I'm a progressive, yeah.
I'm a progressive. My book club read The Help twice. Democratic leaders like Pelosi need to keep everyone in the party, so they make a big deal about being all-inclusive. Democrats are like Denny's. They'll serve anyone, any meal at any time. Doesn't matter if it's 4 a.m. or 4 p.m. You want voting rights, renewable energy, education, drone strikes, pot roasts? They got it. Everything is in there. That's why the inside of a Denny's looks like the Democratic Party. It's fucking chaos. Republicans are way more narrow. Their menu's like Chipotle. They got a few key items: immigration, abortion, guns, God. You have to stick to the menu or you're out. And just like Chipotle, the GOP's like, yeah, we love Mexicans, but you never see an actual Mexican in there. Democrats can't afford for people to leave, so they keep expanding the menu. Gay marriage? Absolutely. Cancel a pipeline? Coming right up. But if you're a progressive, And you want some Green New Deal? Pelosi's gonna be like, we don't make vegan shit here. Shut up and eat your Obamacare. She's not kicking you out, but you are definitely not getting what you want. And you have nowhere else to go.
Is the Democratic Party tent too big?
Well, you know, I think in any two-party system, the tent is going to be really big because what it does is that it squashes dissent. But I do think that there are areas where when that tent gets so big, you squash actually talking about issues in substantive ways because you're not supposed to critique moderate Democrats. Granted, I don't think the Democratic Party's tent is as awful as the Republican Party's tent.
Okay.
You look on the Republican side, you have everyone who's just like corporate conservative, and you have libertarians, and you have neo-Nazis all in the same party.
It's like racist Cirque du Soleil. It's pretty wild.
Exactly. It's just like that.
The GOP is totally like Cirque du Soleil. Every time I watch, I'm like, this is definitely gonna get someone killed. If you're a progressive, being in the big tent means that if you rock with Bernie or with Warren, you're gonna watch your candidate compromise on their values, which means you gotta compromise on your values. So I totally get it. When people are like, yo, fuck politics and fuck these politicians, you watch them during the debates, and it's double the Wu-Tang Clan on stage, and they're sniping at each other like they're trying to take out Bin Laden. It's all about their principles.
For a socialist, you got a lot more confidence in corporate America than I do.
Your billionaire campaign contributors.
Purity tests you cannot yourself pass.
I went on the floor and got you votes.
I am deeply grateful to President Obama, who fought so hard to make sure that agency was passed into law.
Yas, Queen, Liz never backs down.
And that's why I'm proud to endorse Joe Biden as President of the United States.
Ah! See? Every time this happens, people are like, dude, you guys are all either sociopaths or complete liars. Quit telling me to stand and wear a fucking t-shirt with your name on it. But the reason Democrats especially have to compromise every election cycle comes back to the way we vote. Winner take all sends them running to the middle because the only thing they can all agree on is beating the other guy. Biden is the epitome of this. He's a big tent whose only focus is beating Trump. So, you want to know how we ended up with this? Winner take all. And you know what's ironic? The two-party system that we have right now was actually the Founding Fathers' worst nightmare. John Adams said, quote, "A division of the republic into two great parties is to be dreaded as the greatest political evil." Nothing in the Constitution says that we have to have two parties or winner take all. And I know this because I looked through it. And I know when I generally look through government documents, I usually find something really racist, but not this time. Except that was bad. So, why do we have winner-take-all plurality voting if it's not even in the rule book? It's because the Founding Fathers just copied what the British were doing. Dude, they didn't want us to have two parties, but they gave us the system that got us here. It's not often that I say this about a group of slave owners, but I'm disappointed in you guys. Look, we can talk about fixing the Electoral College, or gerrymandering, or campaign finance. Those are important. But fixing those things won't solve negative partisanship, it won't break up the two parties, and it won't fix the fundamental problem of how we vote. So if you feel helpless, or you voted for Gary Johnson, I'm sorry, Dennis, there is hope. There is something we have right now that could change the game. It's something called ranked choice voting, where you rank the candidates in the order of your preference. It's easier to explain with a vote.
Instead of voting for one candidate, voters rank the options in order of preference. The best way to learn is to try it out. So I did, with some delicious local beer.
Okay, can we just get a normal clip that just uses candidates?
You have 4 candidates: Duck, Grey Duck, Goose, and Lutefisk.
What the fuck is Lutefisk? I said candidates.
Here's the candidates who appeared on the ballot, from Ant-Man to Wonder Woman.
Oh my god, the news thinks we're all fucking idiots. Do they think we're just rolling up to the voting booth like, wait, who's Stacey Abrams? Is she Aquaman? We don't dumb things down like that on this show. So I'm gonna explain ranked choice voting to you like you're an adult. Let's say you have 3 candidates. Baby Yoda, Paddington Bear, and Detective Pikachu. Voters rank their favorites, and once all the first choice votes are counted, if anyone gets over 50%, it's like winner take all. They win. Great! Baby Yoda, he'll legalize weed. But if no one gets over 50% in a winner take all system, Paddington Bear would win. But in a ranked choice system, the candidate with the fewest votes gets taken out. So if Detective Pikachu was your first choice, your vote now goes to your second choice, and now whoever gets more than 50% wins. Sick. He'll also legalize MDMA. This is actual majority rules voting, and it's great because you can vote your conscience without electing some fascist like Paddington Bear. It's true. He supports the death penalty. In ranked choice, candidates have to reach out to all voters, so negative partisanship goes away. And there are no wasted votes, so third parties can actually grow. But the most beautiful thing about ranked choice voting? We can do it right now. You don't need to go through Congress, you just need a local law. In 2018, Maine became the first state to implement ranked choice voting. And voters got campaign ads like this.
Hello, I'm Mark Eves.
And I'm Betsy Sweet. And in this upcoming governor's race, we are competitors, but we have been longtime allies.
On June 12th, you can vote for me first and Betsy second,
Or me first and him second, and you can be assured that we will have a strong progressive leader and we will all move Maine forward together.
What? That is the most insane thing I have ever seen in my life. How am I supposed to know who to vote for when no one's being called a Nazi? Dude, the vibe of that video was like nice older poly couple who lives in a treehouse and makes their own honey. Ranked choice voting is a long-term solution. This year, this is what we have. So even principal politicians you may love are gonna have to fall in line.
You seem optimistic that no matter what happens come this fall, you will rally around whoever the nominee is.
For sure.
Are you ready to stand by that principle?
Yes.
I want you to go directly to camera and say, I'm AOC and I endorse for president.
I can't say that. I want to get in trouble.
How about this? I'm AOC and I endorse Guy Fieri for mayor of Flavortown.
Let's go to Flavortown. Let's do it. On Conk or whatever.
On Conk or whatever. This is what we're doing? This is the problem. And we can't have whatever.
No, for sure, for sure.
I don't mean that jokingly. I mean that for sure.
I'll bleach my tips. Let's do it.
Let's go to Flavortown.
Let's go to Flavortown.
So if you're wondering how 2020 is gonna end, I don't care what side of the aisle you're on. Bleach your tips, because I guess we're all going to Flavortown.
The Apprentice was supposed to be a reality show competition based on business smarts, but an underbelly of disturbing factors have been at work as contestants vied for a job within Donald Trump's supposed empire. Let's uncover the things everyone ignored about The Apprentice. All those dramatic arguments in the show's infamous boardroom climaxes were basically for nothing, at least according to Clay Aiken, a former contestant on The Apprentice. Trump didn't decide who got fired on The Apprentice, NBC made those decisions. Wait, what? Is he suggesting that Donald Trump's iconic "you're fired" catchphrase was all a farce?
David, I'm going to ask you to take the down elevator. You're fired.
According to Aiken, there used to be a little thing right on Trump's desk that looked like a phone, and he pretended it was a phone, but it was actually a teleprompter where the producers were sending him notes. Aiken claims NBC determined which contestants were generating the lowest ratings and told Trump who to fire, going on to say, Donald Trump isn't the businessman that people believe he is because we saw him on TV playing The Apprentice, and he did look like he was leading, but on The Apprentice, he doesn't lead. Although it may come as a shock to no one, Donald Trump was focused on squeezing as much as he could financially from the show. According to The New Yorker, when producers were searching for office space in which to stage the show, he vetoed every suggestion, then mentioned that he had an empty floor available in Trump Tower, which he could lease at a reasonable price. When the production staff tried to furnish the space, they found that local vendors, stiffed by Trump in the past, refused to do business with them. Former producer Bill Pruitt and editor Jonathan Braun came clean in The Confidence Man, a Trump-focused episode of the Netflix docuseries Dirty Money.
That goes. It's ridiculous. But we thought it was funny. Just didn't know how many people would actually look at that and go, that's cool. That's real. That's real. Yeah.
Pruitt describes Trump's office in the famed Trump Tower as dated and smelly.
If you were to walk around Donald Trump's actual office in Trump Tower, you'd see, like, the wood's kind of chipped, like,
it's a mess.
Another secret aside from having to give the office a makeover that fit the vibe they were going for, there was no penthouse for winners like the show implied. Different sets existed all on one floor in Trump Tower, a move that likely made filming more convenient, but was yet another fake representation of reality. The title sequence played a part in that as well, as images of Trump's private jet, hotels, and host of products put his apparent success and wealth front and center. Braun told The New Yorker, he had just gone through I don't know how many bankruptcies, but we made him out to be the most important person in the world. It was like making the court jester the king. In the end, The Apprentice helped Trump become relevant again and laid the groundwork for his presidential run. What do you look for in a good employee? Well, if you're Donald Trump, the priority is nice skin, apparently. Trump regularly commented on contestants' appearances, although those comments didn't always make the air. HuffPost got its hands on a transcript from a Season 9 episode titled Beauty and Brains that included some, interesting commentary. In the episode, the teams prepare country music hopefuls Emily West and Luke Bryan for meetings with music industry insiders. The contestants were supposed to work on interviewing skills and create promotional packets, but in the boardroom, Trump uncomfortably turned the conversation to Emily's physical appearance, reportedly ranting, I assume you're gonna leave this off. Don't put this shit on the show, you know. But her skin sucks, okay? I mean, her skin, she needs some serious dermatology. According to the transcript, Trump noted that Bryan was more attractive and asked country music star and guest judge Trace Adkins for his opinion. When Adkins tried to switch the topic by talking about Emily's brochure, Trump reportedly replied, you're obviously not a skin man. After the Huffington Post released the transcript of the aforementioned episode, producer Bill Pruitt suggested on Twitter that there is footage that never made the air that showed more of Trump uncensored. However, some of it has leaked out over time, and even some of the stuff that made it to air is cringeworthy.
Excuse me, you dropped to your knees.
Yes. I begged to do this, and I said,
Must be a pretty picture you dropping to your
John
knees.
and Dennis thought I should be. Omarosa said me. Some other people said you. And
Season 5 contestant Summer Zervos claimed Trump sexually harassed her. Others alleged he used sexist language towards women, and on top of all that,
reality show insiders tell the Associated Press that Trump rated female contestants and talked about which ones he would like to sleep with.
former producer Catherine Walker told the AP that Trump even speculated about how certain female contestants would perform in bed. And The Apprentice winner Randall Pinkett told the AP that he also witnessed Trump talking about wanting to sleep with competitors, as well as describing Trump's work culture.
I got the job done, but I learned the culture of the Trump organization. That culture was not one that reflected my values.
What a group of killers.
And that's just the dirt that's been dug up and published. HuffPost reported that folks who worked on the show are likely remaining tight-lipped for legal reasons.
You signed a non-disclosure agreement the day you were hired.
Despite a successful Season 1, ratings for The Apprentice began to drop as time marched on, and that allegedly didn't sit well with Donald Trump. After a drop in Season 5, former NBC Public Relations Director Jim Dowd claimed Trump asked him to call the 10 major executives who cover television ratings and tell them The Apprentice was the #1 show in its time slot, even though it was actually ranked number 72.
So you want me to lie?
In 2007, executives rebooted the series with the Celebrity Apprentice spinoff, featuring famous names such as Kiss rocker Gene Simmons, pop star Cyndi Lauper, and former baseball pro Darryl Strawberry. The show also shook up the format by having the contestants raise money for charities, which often meant asking famous friends for money. Anything for ratings gold. Ad Age reported that The Apprentice was among the top 10 shows in product placement on network primetime television. To give you an idea, the publication reported a brand popped up in the show 127 times in March 2011 alone. You may have missed this war on your dollars while watching the show because the advertising wasn't always obvious.
Why don't you let me fix you some of this new Mococo drink? All natural cocoa beans from the upper slopes of Mountain Nicaragua, no artificial sweeteners.
What the hell are you talking about?
Donald Trump would often introduce featured brands by referring to his friends at said enterprises, but what you were actually experiencing was arguably a giant commercial in disguise. Season 1, for example, was all about Trump and his brand. The contestants stayed at Trump Tower, drank Trump-branded water, attended events at Trump's golf club, and were sent to Atlantic City to draw attention to his casino before it went bankrupt. By Season 2, other companies were opening their checkbooks to be featured on the show. According to Ad Age, brands paid anywhere from $5 million to $9 million to appear in the series. Broadcaster Piers Morgan competed against returning Apprentice reality star Omarosa Newman in the debut season of The Celebrity Apprentice, and he claimed she was a dirty dealer through and through. In a 2018 interview with the Daily Mail, he alleges that Newman propositioned him to have a romance on the show that they could use for financial gain.
I said, what's a showman? She went, she said, on The Apprentice, everyone has sex together. So you and I could do that, and then we could sell it and make loads of money.
Morgan says he turned her down, and then she allegedly began singing a different tune and began insulting him with gay smears. Despite that behavior, Newman was later employed as one of Trump's top White House aides, much to Morgan's dismay. Eventually, she switched gears and slammed the administration instead. She even wrote a book titled Unhinged, an insider's account of the White House. Donald Trump Jr. allegedly cheated on his wife, Vanessa, with Danity Kane singer and Apprentice contestant Aubrey O'Day. The alleged affair reportedly went on around the time that Vanessa was pregnant with her and Don Jr.'s third child. The Trumps stayed together and had 2 more kids prior to Vanessa filing for divorce in March 2018. Though O'Day has kept quiet about the romantic rumblings, she did post a cryptic tweet the night Donald Trump was elected president in 2016. "My story I didn't tell is worth millions now." Check out one of our newest videos right here. Plus, even more Nicki Swift videos about your favorite reality TV shows are coming soon. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell so you don't miss a single one.
Hey, how you doing? Thank you very much. You're a great crowd. You look great. And I think I know why you're happy. The Supreme Court, can you believe it, has started to do the right thing. DACA today, the president wanted to get rid of the Dreamers Act, and they shot him down. Early in the week, the Supreme Court said if you come out as gay or transgendered, you cannot be fired from your job. And all of America said the same thing. What's a job? But that's pretty big, that a biological male can no longer get a pink slip for wearing one. But yeah, all the experts agree this could lead to a much more inclusive and diverse workplace. In fact, someday they're thinking maybe even a straight male flight attendant. No, everybody's celebrating. Today, Lindsey Graham said this was a great day for no reason at all. In other news, President Trump was walking, and that made big news because he was going down a ramp and he looked like a downer cow trying to get into a walk-in bathtub. And it started people talking about whether he's like up to the job physically, mentally. I mean, he did have a birthday this week. He turned 74. Doesn't look a day over embalmed. But yeah, they had a big celebration at the White House, of course. They had ice cream and cake, and then they remembered it was his birthday. Some more ice cream and cake, and Trump is, of course, bragging about how robust he is, and I agree. Nothing says America's strong like a painted fat man lifting a cupcake with 2 hands. But he did some business this week also, of course. The president, always busy. He signed an executive order on policing. He said he has never been a cop, but he knows what it's like to wrestle someone who's resisting. Oh, cops. Not a good time to be a cop. People are mad at the cops these days. You know what? They're even retitling. Did you see this? The old police shows. It's now Car 54, How Dare You? Murder She Committed. And Law and Order, WTF. And finally, a little sad news, the Oscars are going to be delayed. Yes, of course, because of the pandemic, and they're not making any movies. So they're putting it off, and the Oscars are going to be in April now for the first time. And the committee was very reasonable. They said, we just need more time to not get it right no matter what we do.